Are you okay to read?
Yes,
Sure.
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
This Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. The seven realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. 1. The only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. 2. The only real love is the love for this infinity God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. 3. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, even life itself, are sacrificed. 4. The only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. 5. The only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. This knowledge requires it to help all equally as circumstances demand, without exception of reward, without expectation of reward, when compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, or try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. 6. The only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. 7. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
Sar Meher Baba ki Jai. So let's get started. Um, so we'll start with a quiz again, like yesterday's quiz. Now, how do you know where we are on this board now? Where are we supposed to continue? Anybody? Okay, all we need to do is look for this brown logo. And why brown logo? In progress means we are partially done. If that is not the case, we just look at wherever we have completed, pick the pillar. So if you see the light blue, that's the ones that are completed. So we have finished this whole uh, uh, column. In the next column, we have finished 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is partially complete. So the objective is to complete all of these in the same sequence that they appear. So that's the idea. Again, I'm trying to see how to motivate usage of this. So where are we? We are in the spirit and matter column, and we are trying to see the infinity of the truth. So in infinity of the truth, we were discussing halfway. So I'll just read the para headings again till at least the point that we are at. We are at page 121. So if you look here, I've even written down that we were at page 121. So if we go to 121, let's see the para heading we are at. 117. Stopped here. Invisible totality. So before that, is a source of error in spiritual valuation, followed by mathematical infinity. Truth is not the goal, it's only for the future. Eternal now, fullness of being, spiritual infinity, um, great and grand things. Spiritual infinity comprises greatest and smallest, freedom and joy of non-duality, realizing spiritual infinity through non-duality, social problems, minority and majority, and then we are now getting into invisible totality. And then there are four other concepts: world of the many, the one in each and all, civilization based in the infinity of truth. So that's what we'll go through today. Um, any thoughts, any reactions before we continue? I think all of us on the call were surely there last week. So any reactions, any thoughts from this concept of infinity? Oh,
Not
so
not about infinity as such,
okay,
but I went through the last two sessions at home
okay,
because I didn't attend. So they were
correct.
very profound, and the discussions were very helpful, and made things very difficult in the sense that there is so much to understand, and Baba has put so many things in a nutshell. To expand that, we need a lot more time to understand each one. But the takeaway for me was the talks when I hear them blindfolded after I switch on the mobile or the system was really a captivating thing. Fully concentrated. It was a nice experience for me, Jai Baba.
Excellent. I specifically remember last week's discourses. It was just amazing, right? It was on song. We we were all engaged. We had so many questions. We had so many points of view. And as I already said when we started this chapter, I love this chapter because of the concept of infinity that's talked about here. So yeah, agreed. And it's a good way of going back to a hard chapter. It's obviously a very good way of catching up with what we could not attend. So please use the videos. I use the videos a lot if I have to just go back to a particular chapter, because now it's very easy. You just go search which video link, and then instead of trying to read it, which is time consuming, especially with our schedules, just open the video, put it on your ear, and then you're all set. You can hear it rather than read it. Okay, so let's get started then. Any volunteers to read? We start from here. Okay, I will start for a bit and then
World of the many, or
no, we start from here where there are many.
yeah. But one thing which comes out from this chapter, Karthik, just allow me, is that the concept of mathematical infinity and spiritual infinity are very different. And in spiritual infinity, there is no limitation. So that is something which comes out from this chapter as well.
So, quiz question: how is it different? What's different? So each of these things are actually very simple statements that Baba makes, but you'll have to go and internalize it and basically meditate on the concept to literally get on top of it. He
Yeah.
he
So
says that.
nothing can be added to
Yeah,
it
go
and
ahead.
subtracted away from it, and leaves no room for any other small or great uh, inclusions. So it's it cannot be increased or decreased. That's a very mathematical, or let's say numerical way of looking at it. But That's how I relate to it. It's something which is cannot. It is nothing will be added or deducted. That's what comes to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and only a tranquil and a quiet mind is when you can really understand the significance of that. Jai Baba.
So he actually not only contrasts mathematical infinity to spiritual infinity, but questions mathematics itself to say, why do you call it infinity? It's not. Because what he's saying is, you're saying that there are discrete numbers, then you're saying something, some concept you're referring to as infinity, but that concept that you're referring to as infinity, A, is undefined, B, is subject to the fact that because it's undefined, you can always have a plus one to it. So how is it infinite? And if there is something in the world of spirituality and God, it has to include that as well, which is mathematical infinity. So it's a very profound, beautiful concept. Jump in, Kama. You don't even have to put your hand up.
Yeah, Jai Baba, the way I understand it is that on top-down approach, we are dealing with the material mental, which deals with the phenomenal world, and we have the spiritual body, which I call as the realized self. So the self, which is the drop soul or spirit, is using consciousness, or through consciousness, the consciousness needs the material body to get liberated. So the consciousness, the human consciousness, which is full and complete, which we call Mahachaitanya, which is covered by a layer of sanskaras, needs the material body to liberate itself. And the material body can't do without consciousness. So they are, interrelated with each other. So to understand because somebody can understand infinity unless you got realized. So
Bro,
when you look
you're breaking up.
this,
You're breaking up, bro. Your data quality. Yeah.
uh,
Repeat what you said in the last 30 seconds.
hold on. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, much better.
Okay.
Please repeat what you
Right
said in
now,
the last 30 seconds.
okay, yeah, I'm in Hyderabad, hence the network problem. So, what I wanted to say was that on the drop soul, basically, when you look at the human being, you have two bodies. One is the material body, gross, subtle, mental, and you have the spiritual body, which we call the realized self. Now, consciousness, that is human consciousness, because we are all human beings, is full and complete, but is covered by a layer of sanskaras. So, this consciousness to liberate itself, the consciousness of the drop soul of each individual soul to reach liberation or mukti, needs the material body to play this game in the phenomenal world. So, in the phenomenal world, where we are dealing with the material world or the gross world, subtle world, and mental world, especially the gross world, we use the concept of mathematical infinity, which is what is helping us, in terms of quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and classical mechanics to deal with the phenomenal world. Now, here in this chapter, SIT, Sit, Spiritual Infinity of the Truth, what we notice is there is the infinity in terms of spirituality and infinity, the mathematical infinity, which is dealing with the material world. So the way I look at infinity is from the seven realities. So the first two postulates, the real existence and the real love, the first two realities give you the God realization, all trying to have God realization or self-realization. And God has many different aspects from the seven realities. First, we call existence. Second, we call the self, the realized self. Then you talk about love, which is divine love. Then there is infinity. and then there is truth. So I think rather than getting too intricate about trying to understand infinity, you should look at it. That is why it says infinity of the truth. So if you look at it from that point of view, rather than trying to just look at infinity and trying to understand that, if you look at the other different aspects like existence, self, divine love, and so on, then I think this whole concept will become much more easier to understand. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, I think that's a good point. See it in the larger picture and the other realities as well. Anyway, let me start reading from where we left off. Avtar Meher Baba ki Jai. Where there are many, there is necessarily comparison between them. There is a smaller and a greater, a hierarchy of claims, privileges, and rights, and all valuation gets twisted by the recognition of gradations of different types. From the spiritual point of view, all these are forms of false consciousness because the same truth vibrates in everyone. The subtopic, I'm sorry, I should have read first, is World of the Many. The unity that is experienced in realization, Bigar, however, is necessarily different from the principle of equality. The next one is one in each and all. In duality, one person may be equal to any other single person in respect to claims, rights, and worth, but can never be equal within duality to two or more persons. On the other hand, the spiritual infinity of the truth has room for the paradox that one individual can be regarded as the totality itself. Therefore, one person is not only capable of being looked upon as equal in importance to two or more persons, but even as equal to all. In spiritual infinity, all comparison is out of place. There is no smaller or greater, or hierarchy of claims, privileges, and rights, and valuation remains unclouded because of the unmarred perception of the one, big O, in each and all. Since everyone in creation is not only in spiritual infinity, but is that indivisible spiritual infinity, then everyone is first in importance and no one is second. So again, this is a very interesting concept. So one, we see the infinity, and here the concept of equality is brought out very beautifully. There is no smaller or greater, or hierarchy of claims, privileges, and rights. And valuation remains unclouded because of the unmarred perception of the one in each and all. So the only way to get to that point is by reaching a point of God realization where you're seeing this unity or seeing the equality in every other soul. Yeah, Mahu, go ahead.
I think here in these discourses, um, many of the thing you said, and we read it, but he's actually introducing new concepts.
Your audio is coming and fading in and fading out.
Okay, so is it better now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, perfect. He's actually introducing this notion to us to live our life based on real valuation. Now, this spiritual infinity, it doesn't really come with realization. It is in each one of us, but it's latent. It's there sitting for more awakening and to just come out and manifest itself. And gradually it manifests itself, but as one totality. And So, like for example, but this concept of democracy, equal right, equal race, equal, caste, creed, that all that, Baba actually changing all that. There isn't any difference between any of us, because as a spiritual being, which Baba says live as a spiritual being, we are all one. Why? Because God is within us. Whether we're conscious of it or unconscious of it, it doesn't really matter. So this differentiation that we bring among ourselves is totally unnecessary, and we should not do that. So in fact, from now on, if anything like this, any discussion comes up in public or friends or people, I think I'm going to talk about this, that the new concept of equality and democracy. That's all.
Absolutely. And it's not just equality from a nation state perspective, like you already said. It's religion, it's caste, it's creed, it's even sex, language. And Baba refers to it in discourses in multiple places. All of those are because of wrong valuation. Spot on. Valuation is the key. So the moment you get the right valuation, then you recognize the unity in one and all. Nice comment. Thank you. So let's continue. Civilization is based on infinity of truth. In social life, the recognition of the spiritual infinity of the truth will mean a challenge to individualism as well as to collectivism. It initiates a new way of thinking in terms of an indivisible totality, and it discards all the relative values of comparison in favor of the recognition of the intrinsic worth of everything. I repeat this line. It initiates a new way of thinking in terms of an indivisible totality, and it discards all the relative values of comparison in favor of the recognition of the intrinsic worth of everything. So again, it's closer to the valuation concept that came up in the previous chapter, previous para. It's looking at the world in a new lens where you see the right values and the intrinsic worth of everything, and not get into just comparison. In a civilization based upon a true idea of the spiritual infinity of the truth, there will be therefore be no problems of majority and minority, of rivalry and competition, and of those comparisons and laborious assessments that so often become a shelter for pride and separative ego. Life then will be infinitely simple and integral, because the illusions that create rifts and complexities will have disappeared. So, beautiful chapter. Any thoughts? Oh, yeah, sorry. Ravi, go ahead.
Yeah, this reminds me of Lin Art. I think some of you might know. Lin Art is a
Painter.
painter.
Yeah.
He's a blind man, but he's not completely blind. But he could see a little bit of the vision, very narrow vision. So he was painting Meher Baba pictures. So once Baba called them, and he visited. And one thing, he gave a beautiful talk in the Mandalay Hall talks. He has a couple of talks. One thing that he was mentioning that worth noticing is he attended Baba when he was there, and whatever the people are talking, he may be interested on saying something, but let's say people are talking about the curtains on the windows are very unimportant things. Baba would not dispose them. He would certainly pay attention to what they're talking, whether it is unimportant thing or important thing. So that thought, that talk I just remembered that maybe
So how's it
appropriately.
associated with what we're reading? I'm sorry, I'm not able to make the
Everybody
connection.
is equal, right? Every
Okay.
individual.
So every thought, every concept, every word said by anybody gets the same importance.
Importance by Baba. That was Baba.
Beautiful. Hmm.
Um, but we have a tendency to give more important to certain things and ignoring certain things. Everything is important, but only thing is we have different priorities, which is a priority. That's what we need to pay attention to. Not something is not important, something is more important. There's a difference between giving a priority versus ignoring completely. And this reminds me of another big pop singer, Michael Jackson. He gave so much of importance to his dance and songs, and he was very successful. But rest of his life, he completely screwed up, and he died so young. I mean, his whole life was complete screw up. There's an example for that. Jeba.
Well, we are no one to judge. Maybe that's what he had to do, right? So, in the sense that, anyway, I don't want to take up Michael
Sorry, what did you
Jackson.
say? What did you say?
Can
Sorry.
I make
No,
a comment here?
yeah, go ahead, Mahu.
Hang
Yeah,
on 1 second.
I
Hang
think,
on 1 second.
I'm
Hang on.
sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Karthik.
So all I said was, who are we to judge? In the sense, maybe that's what he had to do. But from the outward perception, outward lens, maybe the material lens, we see it as a big loss, right? So we don't know. Anyway, Mahu, go ahead.
I don't think we could actually, with all respect, we could exemplify Michael Jackson as, not knowing his priority and this and that, because he was a genius, no doubt on that, in terms of creating music and so forth. But in terms of his personal, these people are so drowned in indulgence, okay? And they're not really happy. They're very unhappy people. And they try all the low desires for seeking happiness and still is not there. So they don't have the right valuation. Now, this is what we're reading. um, if they had a right valuation, they wouldn't be as unhappy. In fact, he died from, um, taking a lot of drugs. Like he just passed on and so forth. So, no, what I'm trying to say is that we can't really bring these people as an example. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mahu, and thank you, Karthik. It's not the Michael Jackson that's important. We need to learn from them. It's the point is we need to give importance to everything is important in our life. Every person we meet are important. Every incident is important. Everything that we have to deal are important. But we have priorities. That is the whole lesson we need to learn. That's all there is to it. I'm not judging. Uh, yeah, we should not judge, but we keep judging, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
So
the intention
yeah,
is, the
resist the
intention
temptation
is,
to judge, but then give fair hearing to everything, or look at all the perception possibilities that are around you, but see it through the lens of right valuation.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
not
I
to
think it's
judge
not
or to
about
put
judging,
them
it's
down
about
or anything.
learning, learning from others. It's
Yeah,
not just about judging. We are not passionately for or against or whatever, but we have to
yeah,
learn from such things, what I
exactly.
think Ravi was indicating here. That's an
Yeah,
example. We need examples of people who all of us know so we can connect. Yeah, yeah, Baba.
Fair enough. But again, choose your examples wisely. And
Yeah.
again, use discretion so that you don't
Yeah,
make
yeah,
errors in judgment.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I don't think this is a judgment, but we have a choice. We have many perfect masters. We know we have Kabir, San Francisco Assisi, all the mandalis that Baba brought to us. Just why not exemplify them? Okay.
Yes,
Not the worldly people, let alone just the very extreme worldly people. And this is not a judgment, this is a right valuation. We need to declare that what is right and what is wrong. Our
That's right.
consciousness
That's
needs
right.
to
Yeah.
have sense of
Yeah.
discernment
For
and
our own
discretion
learning.
and go
For
by
our own
that.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, what are we
that's
going to
all.
get out of judging Michael Jackson, right? Nothing, For our own learning, we need
use
to
your
go in the right.
viveka, correct.
Yeah. Let's proceed.
Yes, yes, Kama. Last comment, and we proceed with violence and non-violence. You had your
Yeah,
hand
Jai
up, Kama.
Baba. I was hearing, yeah, I was hearing to the comments here. I know.
Kama, you're
So
Network
breaking
whatever
up.
problems.
happens with
Kama,
anybody.
your audio is
Hello?
not clear to me at least.
Yes, it is not clear,
Uh,
Kama.
okay. I will stop here. I will probably comment later when the
It's
network
good
is better.
now. Now you
Okay.
can start commenting. It's good now. We can hear you.
Okay. So what I was trying to say here is that based on reincarnation and karma chapters, we all understand that we begin where we ended in our past life. We script our next life or current life, and everybody's life is pre-scripted from a macro level basis, from the big picture. And everybody's life is an example or a case study of what we can learn from other people's mistakes, or what I call the OPM theory, other people's money or other people's mistakes. So I think judging, of course, something that Baba has said, no backbiting. If you want to have the gift of pure love, you have to have certain attributes, no backbiting, looking at the good points of others rather than their bad points, supreme tolerance, and the happiness of others at the cost of our own happiness. We all know that, this is all written there, and we have to stop worrying. So definitely we are all working on not judging people because we have been trained to be competitive in the material world, and that is part of duality. So when we are talking about infinity in the material world, it deals through duality in life, because that is part of the
Okay, it's again being bad. If
that is okay.
Yeah, we hardly heard anything in the last 30 seconds.
I'll put okay. I'll put it as a voicemail later. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
please.
Baba.
Thanks. All right, Jai Baba. Okay, so any volunteers who want to read?
Okay, I'll read.
Go ahead. Violence and non-violence.
Man has a tendency to cling to catchwords and to allow his actions to be determined by them almost mechanically without bringing his actions into direct relation with the living perception that these words embody. The subtitle, I'm sorry, I didn't read, is Going Beyond Words. Words.
Can you read a little bit slower and can you please start again?
Yeah, I will. I will.
Yeah, just the speed, I mean,
Yes,
if you
yes.
don't mind.
That,
Thank you.
the title is, the subtitle is Going Beyond Words. Man has a tendency to cling to catchwords and to allow his actions to be determined by them almost mechanically without bringing his actions into direct relation with the living perception that these words embody. Words have their own place and use in life, but if action is to be intelligent, it is imperative that the meaning these words are intended to convey should be carefully analyzed and fixed. Among the words that need such exploration, few are as important as violence and non-violence. They have a direct bearing upon the ideologies that shape not only particular actions but also the entire tenor of life. Spiritual understanding goes beyond formulations. Spiritual life is a matter of perception and not of mechanical conformity to rules, even when these rules are meant to stand for the highest values. It implies an understanding that goes beyond all words or formulations. All words and formulations have a tendency to limit the truth. Therefore, those who seek to bring out the spirit underlying these formulations often have to launch upon a searching analysis of the formulated principles and to supplement this analysis by constantly retaining touch with concrete examples taken from life. This is particularly true of those guiding principles formulated to the opposite concepts of violence and non-violence. The words violence and non-violence are, in ordinary references, applicable to such diverse situations in practical life that no exposition of the issues involved can be complete unless it takes note of these diverse situations and uses them as starting point. Subtopic representative situations. However, for the purpose of exposition, it is not necessary to exhaust numerically all the possible diversities that would be covered by these words. It is enough to consider some of the most representative situations. The representative situations mentioned below have been selected because of their capacity to shed abundant light on the fundamental values that center around the concepts of violence and non-violence. Situation number one. Suppose a man who does not know how to swim has fallen into a lake and is drowning. There is another person nearby who is good at swimming and wants to save him. The drowning man has a tendency to grasp desperately at the person who comes to his aid, and the hold is often so restricting that it may not only be impossible to save the drowning man, but may even cause the drowning of the one who came to help. The one who wishes to save the drowning man may therefore have to strike him unconscious before he can help him. Striking the drowning man under such circumstances cannot be looked upon either as violence or non-violence. The subtopic is case of drowning man.
So is the first situation clear? Can people think of alternate examples for this before we go to situation number two? So causing harm to another in the process of helping them is what this is about.
I can give an example.
Please.
If somebody is sort of electrocuted or say is in shock because they're holding a wire or something like that. So what we actually do is take hold of some wood or something which is non-conductor and try to hit so that they'll get loose of that connection between the wire and themselves. So there is some amount of violence involved, apparent violence involved, but should we call it as violence or non-violence?
Beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful
Right.
example.
I think the simplest example is a mother who hits a child, That's the simplest example. Yeah, because that's for the ultimate benefit of the child.
Correct. That's arguably a controversial topic, but yeah, agreed.
Another example is a self-defense.
Sure.
A lot of women, they train by learning karate or boxing, or some actions. If people attack them, and there's a rape, there is a this, there's that, there's a burglary, so in that case, if they they defend themselves, as a result punch in the guy's face, or and so forth, I think probably is not the violence.
In
Yeah.
fact, that's not exactly comparable to this, because you are actually. I think there is a situation that's coming up that's similar to that. So in this, I think so you are not a subject. You are not subject to any violence, but you are subject to violence to get you out of the problem that you're in. In this example, in this situation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll go to situation two. And Ashok, can you continue?
Can you please raise it? Yeah. Uh, so, situation number two. Suppose a person is suffering from some disease that can only be cured through an operation. Thus, in order to cure the suffering patient as well as to protect others from catching this infection, a surgeon may have to remove the infected part. This cutting of the body with a knife also cannot be looked upon either as violence or non-violence. Subtopic case of surgery.
Okay. So again, this is similar to the previous one in the sense that you're trying to, or it's similar to the example Mamaji gave of the electrocution, right? So the way to alleviate that pain is actually to hit, cause some harm. And in fact, I stand corrected. This it's close. His example is closer to this than that, right? So the cutting of the body with a knife is very similar to beating the person with wood to get him off the problem of electrocution. So using a bad conductor, hit him, right? So any other examples? Any other thoughts?
Karthik, the other thought is that it's basically the cost or benefit analysis, in the sense that if you're doing something, it might be uh, violent, but you're doing it for the greater benefit of the person to whom you're, you know, advocating this violence.
Correct. Agreed.
I think, I think mostly depends upon the intention with any uh, violence act is done. That makes a difference.
Correct. And the other thing that keeps hitting me in this chapter is the concept of context, right? So, unless you know enough about the context, you can never understand and be appreciative of the action that was done by him. So, by the way, this is in my head, this is very closely connected to action and inaction, right? So action and inaction, violence and non-violence and there are two chapters on violence and non-violence. We hopefully let's finish both of them today. But they're connected to action and inaction, right? In the sense that what you do is subject to the information that you have at your command through your perception, and taking the right action is your benefit, right? And it's up to you on what you do. So each of these examples that we see are examples of action. There is a intervention that somebody is doing based on stimuli, and the nature of that, what we are debating and what Baba is bringing out in this chapter is nothing but how the material world will look at us at this action in response to a stimuli, and what the true nature of that or the true value of that action is. So yeah, I think let's go to situation number three.
Situation number three, case of aggressive nation. Suppose an aggressive nation invades a weaker nation for selfish purposes and another nation, inspired solely by the noble desire of saving the weak nation, resists this aggressive invasion by armed force. Fighting in defense of the weak nation cannot be looked upon as either violence or non-violence, but can be called non-violent violence.
Okay.
Situation number 4.
So
Case of
again, just before you go there, to me, this is very tough to. I mean, I follow a lot of geopolitics, so for me, the
Yeah.
biggest problem is here. This is not easy to pinpoint. The noble desire should be there. Only then this action can be treated as non-violent violence, right? So if which is very rare, it is very rare, right? So arguably, nothing in the world is done without a selfish motive. One of the things that I keep thinking of is India did a great job by giving away vaccines free, right? When we had not vaccinated our own people, we had the magnanimity to give away vaccines to some countries. But a contrarian view to that, but would be to say, hey, this was to get favors. They were currying favors with the global South, right? They were trying to create a positive impact, a soft power, whatever, right? So everything. The key thing in this paragraph is we should be able to determine noble desire, without which you cannot really classify it as non-violent violence.
You know, the best example is when Pakistan and Bangladesh, they're having a lot of chaos. West Pakistan and East Pakistan before
Mhm.
19, whatever the time. India, intervened and they waged a war against Pakistan and freed the Bangladesh. That's how the country was formed. So that's an example fits into this.
Absolutely. That's a good example. Again, whether it's a totally noble desire, we don't know. Meanwhile, focus on your screens. We are seeing live footage from Khojaguda, Hyderabad, where Neha ji is, right?
Absolutely right. This is unbelievable. It's so beautiful, and it has something else here. You know, the immense energy of Baba. I'm here yesterday the entire day. Today is now the main program is about to start. So I thought before that I should, because you are live and this will be recorded here. So this was a place, Manunash Cave, where Baba stayed for 8 days, from 16th to 24th. And Baba has some conditions. There has to be a mosque and mandir and 2 water bodies and things like that. And Marli somehow. This is place they got. I don't know how to explain it, but I wish I would, visited Hyderabad before. I visited Hyderabad many a times, but not to this place. Jubilee Hills also is amazing center because Baba did lots of work on Jubilee Hills, and even this place. One time, I would like to request all of you to come and visit here. It's a must. If you are a Baba lover, you must visit this Manonash cave. And if you wish, I can take you to the main cave side, just for a glimpse, just for a minute, and then I'll close my video because the program is about to start. This is the main cave. Fine చేసుకోండి పైన చూసుకోండి.
Yeah, this is the inside of the cave. Yeah. Okay, I think if you're speaking, we're not able to hear you.
No, this is silent. Everybody is in silence. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
sure.
showing.
Fair enough. Jai Baba.
Thank you.
Jai Baba.
Thank
Jai
you,
Baba.
Baba.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
So some live footage, which was, I hope, interesting and very relevant. Yeah.
So regarding this noble desire, suppose if the country is doing something wrong or right, it's like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or whatever. So who will get those sanskaras? I don't think it's only for the Indira Gandhi or some prime minister, right? Because we're also not opposing it. We're just seeing like what is happening. So
That's
if something is
good.
going wrong,
Yeah.
then so who is responsible for that? Entire
Good
nation?
question. No. So, my understanding, and others can jump in as well. My understanding is sanskaras are totally individual, right? So let's take the same example that you took, which is Indira Gandhi, Bangladesh, Pakistan, the war, and how India went in to help the liberation of Bangladesh. Now, each one of the protagonists in this example, the head of Pakistan, the head of India, the soldier on the actual border who's fighting, the people of Bangladesh, individuals there again, army, everybody, each one is sorting out their own individual sanskaric journeys. It just so happens that there is a group impact of it, right? So Indira Gandhi, in her role, is actually performing a sanskaric. She's sorting only with her sanskaras. Her role happens to be that important that it impacts an entire nation, right? So she has to she has to do intelligent action. She has to do the right decisions. But then the impact of those decisions and choices, fortunately or unfortunately, are a matter of impact on the entire country. So there is nothing like a group samskara, but there is something where Baba says in God Speaks that very small. I'm trying to remember the type of organism, right? The separative existence, separative ego plus separative sanskaras are a fact from the time of the stone, right? And in some small animal forms, he says that there are group sanskaras. I'm trying to think of an example. I'll research it and come back. But otherwise, it's all individual. It's only individual. Does
Yeah.
that
So
answer your question?
whatever the contribution from that person, right? So because we're also contributed. Suppose the one example is suppose Rajiv Gandhi is sending some military to the Sri Lanka, right? And
Correct.
suddenly he said, oh, we are just backing it off, but we are not saying anything. Apart from suppose Tamil Nadu, no one is like bothering about it. So that is our
Correct.
sanskaras, right? Because I am not telling
Correct.
anything. I am not opposing any activity from the government. So that is the my sanskaras, correct?
Yeah,
So it's not just you. I mean, depending on your sanskaras, you will get involved. Yeah? So the people who got involved had those sanskaras which made them to get involved in whatever way they got involved, emotionally or physically, financially, or whatever, you know. So it's just like that, as simple as that, I think.
Yeah. See, I just like to bring in my own thinking here. For each one of us, as Karthik says, we all have sanskaras, but sanskaras are all these are just general word. right? It's our past experiences. Our past experience can be related to food or education or violence or whatever, it's all combination. So suppose I and my wife and my kids live in this house. All our sanskaras together constitute my family's sanskaras in a indirect way, not directly, but in indirectly. The village I'm living in, all the people who live there, the sanskaras of all the people combined, the effect will be there. Like this country also, even though the main administrators do some action, all the people are get affected directly or indirectly, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. Yeah, that's I think. Yeah, Jeba.
So you just have your role of performing intelligent action, Ashish. So you just have to look at the stimuli that you are exposed to in every context and make the right
Yes.
decision for your sanskaras. That's it. Don't worry about anything else. So, and do that every minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Even if you
Situation.
worry, there's nothing we can do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
True, true.
That's why Baba said, "Don't worry, be happy."
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely, Ravi. And this reminds me of two lines of poem: "Ask not to question why, ask but to do, and and die." Means either you get God realization or you move on to the next body. So that's what it reminds me of. Shall I move on to
Please, 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 please.
situation number 4? Case of mad dog. Suppose a mad dog has run amok and is likely to bite some school children, and the teachers in the school destroy the mad dog in order to protect the children. This destruction of the mad dog does not imply violence, but there is no hatred in it. This is clear, I think. Uh,
Yeah,
Situation number 5. Sorry, any comments or
clear. I think I agree with that. Any questions? We can pick it up or we can go to situation 5.
situation number 5? Supposedly, suppose a physically strong man is insulted and spat upon by an arrogant man who is nevertheless weak. And suppose that strong man who has the power to crush the arrogant man not only desists from hurting him, but calmly explains to him the gospel of love. This action implies non-violence, but it is the non-violence of the strong. Subtopic: case of the non-violence of the strong. The first three situations mentioned above clearly bring out that the question whether the situation implies violence or non-violence cannot be decided except by entering into many subtle and delicate considerations regarding the diverse details of the situation and the motive that prompts action. The last two situations show that even where violence or non-violence is implied, certain other factors give meaning beyond the ordinary sense attached to these words, violence and non-violence. Subtopic: need for deliberate considerations.
Delicate.
Sorry, delicate considerations. Uh, so basically, I think this aspect that it is we have to see the context of what is led to the action.
Yeah. Whenever I use the word context, I unfortunately remember the some big battle that we had in our 2020 calls.
Ah,
Uh, and I was trying in vain to make the tempers cool down. And I was saying, deal with, I understand the context and react, but it's a strong memory.
yes.
All right. Need for delicate considerations.
Yeah. need for delicate considerations. The first three situations mentioned above clearly bring out the question whether a situation implies violence or non-violence cannot be decided except by entering into many subtle and delicate considerations regarding the diverse details of the situation and the motive that prompts action. The last two situations show that where violence or non-violence is implied, certain other factors give meaning beyond the ordinary sense attached to these words, violence and non-violence. So, Ravi, your point of intention comes in here.
Yeah.
Our detailed analysis of situation number one shows that though it involves the use of force without prior consent of the victim, the motive was to save the drowning man. The application of force without the consent of the man on whom it is used may be termed a case of violence. But the force is used for the good of the drowning man and not without any desire to inflict injury or harm on him. And in that sense, it may be said it is not a case of violence. Subtopic comments on case of drowning man. In these special senses, the situation can be said to involve violence and non-violence respectively. But in the ordinary sense of the words, it cannot be looked upon a case of either violence or non-violence. Situation number two is slightly different. Here, there is application of force even to cutting the body, which is good of the patient. But in most cases, the patient gives prior consent to the operation. Subtopic comments on case of surgery. Further, the operation is intended not only to protect the man himself from the further ravages of the disease, but is also intended to protect others from the spread of the infection. The application of force here springs out of the motive of doing unmixed good both to the patient as well as many others who might come into contact with him. Since no harm is intended, the application of force does not amount to violence in the ordinary sense, nor can it.
Sorry, did you lose?
Yeah, I lost the text, so I just. One sec.
Last line, last line.
Yeah,
Last
nor
line.
can it be adequately looked upon as non-violence, since it is a clear case of cutting a part of a living body.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what are the two?
I can read now. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the two things that came out from the comments on the case of drowning man and case of surgery? Is one, so both are inflicting of violence on the subject, but in one case there most likely is consent, and in the first there is clearly no consent, right? So there's no room for getting consent, so you just go ahead and do what you need to do, which is slap the guy into unconsciousness and then bring him out of ashore. So that's the key point here. Go ahead. Situation number 3, comments on the case of aggressor nation.
Can I read now? Yeah.
Somebody, Karthik.
Yeah, Sanjay ji, please.
Yeah, I can read because.
Please,
Yeah, please.
Situation number 3 is also very interesting and instructive. Here, the fighting involves offering resistance to aggression with no selfish motive or personal interest, but solely with the purpose of defending the weaker nation. This may inflict much injury and even destruction upon the aggressor nation, and the use of force is not only without its prior consent, but against its deliberate and conscious will. We are reading comments on case of aggressor nation. Even in the situation, we do not, even in this situation, we do not have a clear case of violence. In spite of the injury and harm involved, the application of force is not only for the good of the weaker nation, which is the victim, but in a very important sense, it is also for the good of the aggressor nation itself, because through the resistance encountered to its aggression, it is gradually cured of its spiritual weakness or disease of having a tendency to invade and exploit weaker nations. This violence is really not violent, but so it is called non-violent violence. Comparison between aggressor nation and surgery. In case of fighting with an aggressor nation, it is very similar to the case of surgery on an infected part of the body. In the case of fighting with the aggressor nation, the good of the weaker nation appears to be the primary result, and the good of the aggressor nation against which force is exercised appears to be a secondary result. In the case of the operation, good of the patient on whom force is exerted appears to be the primary result, and the good of the others appears to be a secondary result. But this is only a primary difference in benefit. And
minor difference.
when the two situations, only a minor difference in benefit, and when the two situations are carefully analyzed and compared, it is found that both promote equally the good of the target of force as well as many others involved in the situation.
So
I think this gives a very profound, message to us as an individual, that when we get involved in these kinds of situations, we have to see it dispassionately in this lens. Actually, that we are fighting against somebody, but it is out of ultimate benefit of that. That that because you are doing something wrong, I am doing it to you. It's not jingoism or kill everybody, or this is bad or that is the kind of thing that we see in the media these days. It's only for the purpose, and there is it's driven by a purpose actually, and a goal. Yeah, Jai Baba.
Yeah.
Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Next is defending weak, a form of selfless service. Defending the weak is an important form of selfless service and is a part of karma yoga, or the yoga of action. Use of force when necessary for this purpose is completely justified as an indispensable instrument for securing the desired objective. But any fighting undertaken to defend the weak must be without any selfish motives or hatred, if it is to have unalloyed spiritual importance. It resembles, for example, a case of a man who defends a woman being attacked by another man for vile purposes, thus saving the woman's honor and life and punishing the attacker and making him repent. Comments on cases of mad dog and non-violence of the strong. Situation number 4 is definitely a case of violence. However, it is justified because there is no hatred in it, and because it is intended to promote the greater good of the children who might be attacked by the mad dog. Hatred is a underlined word for me here. The case of the strong man who gives a sermon instead of seeking revenge. Situation number 5 implies non-violence, but it is not a case of inaction. It implies neither passivity or weakness, but strength and true creative action of an impersonal nature. It is non-violence of the strong.
So this
Yeah,
is a
go to,
clear
yeah.
linkage between the action inaction chapter and this, right? So he's clearly saying it is not a case of inaction, but it is creative action of an impersonal nature, right? So it's beautiful to note this. So even when you don't act, you're actually performing an action in that sense, right? It is smart inaction. It is conscious inaction, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zero value in mathematics.
Zero karma, zero sanskara action.
Zero value. So that's also a value, right? In mathematics. Zero.
Yes.
Yeah. Spiritual understanding above rules and requires divine love. The detailed analysis and comparison of the above diverse situations brings out the fact that questions concerning violence and non-violence, their justification or otherwise, and the ascertainment of their true value or lack of value cannot be decided by any formal enunciation of a universal rule. Wow. They involve many delicate spiritual issues and implications. A right understanding of the status of violence and non-violence in the scheme of spiritual values requires a true perception of the meaning of the purpose of existence. Action, therefore, should not be governed by means of any slogans, however high sounding, based upon incomplete and insufficient ideas of mere violence or mere non-violence. It should be in spontaneous outcome of divine love, which is above duality, and of spiritual understanding, which is above rules. Very profound. Yeah, Baba.
Yeah. Gem of a chapter, small one, but very, very good. So we can actually continue and finish, or at least get as far as we can on violence and non-violence further explained. Do you
Yeah.
want to rotate
Yeah.
reading? You're okay to read for some more time?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
So the chapter name is let's read the chapter name again.
Yeah. So before that,
Yeah.
let me just see the para headings. So we'll just see it here. So it's not the chapter heading is violence and non-violence further explained. The chapter headings are non-violence, part 1, non-violence pure and simple, based on divine love. Part 2 is non-violence of the brave, based on unlimited pure love. Part 3 is non-violent violence, based on unlimited love. 4 is selfless violence, based on limited human love. 5 is non-violence of the coward, based on unlimited weakness of character and mind. And 6 is selfish violence. So there are 6 types of violence and non-violence together that we will see in this chapter. Oops. Sorry. 1 second. Please.
Okay. Non-violence. 1. Non-violence, pure and simple, based on divine love. Here one sees all as one's own self and is beyond both friendship and enmity. Never under any circumstances does a single thought of violence enter one's mind. Number 2, non-violence of the brave based on unlimited pure love. This implies those who, although not one with all through actual realization, consider no one as their enemy. They try to win over even the aggressor through love and give up their lives if attacked, not through fear, but through love. Violence 3. Non-violent violence based on unlimited love. Violence done solely to defend the weak, where there is no question of self-defense or of self-motivation, is non-violent violence.
Can I stop here? Can
Yes,
there
Mamaji.
be some explanation for the second one? I was not able to concept. I could not understand.
It's
Go
anybody
go up a bit. Yeah, yeah. Let's read it again. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Non-violence of the brave. Yeah. Based on unlimited pure love. This applies to those who, although not one with all, through actual realization, consider no one as their enemy. They try to win over even the aggressor through love and give up their lives if attacked, not through fear, but through love. So this is something what Gandhi professed actually, though highly debatable, whether it was pure out of pure unlimited love or not. That's the question. But generally speaking, so
Yes.
this is what it is talking
Oh,
about.
it is non-violence of the brave. So they are capable
Yeah,
of doing something, but they don't
yeah,
do that with love.
yes,
They get all the inflictions out of that, but
yeah,
they keep loving. Okay,
and they are not God realized,
of
or
course.
yeah.
they are not
Or
Yes, yes,
spiritually evolved, but yet
yes,
they
yes.
use unlimited love. That's the two
Yes.
criteria.
yeah,
The first one is almost by the realized souls or the masters, things like that, based
Correct.
on love. Yes.
Correct. Correct.
Oh,
So, Mamaji, the second one.
some traces we can have, right? The first one also.
yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Granted.
Yeah, yeah. If you exclude ourselves from everything, then what we are reading for?
It's very demotivating.
Yeah.
Ashok, you
Yeah.
were saying something,
Yeah, I'm saying it's a conscious choice.
which is
I mean, eh, whether to exercise non-violence.
oh, absolutely. Okay, three. We'll read three again.
Why? Yeah. Violence 3. Non-violent violence based on unlimited love. Violence done solely to defend the weak, where there is no question of self-defense or of self-motivation, is non-violent violence.
And this is also said in the case of the aggressor nation. That's described as non-violent violence,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Number 4, selfless violence based on limited human love. Here, violence is done in self-defense when one is attacked treacherously or with no other selfish motive. For example, when one's mother's honor is on the point of being violated by a lustful man, one defends one's mother. Also, when a nation's honor is at stake and it is being attacked by enemies, the nation's selfless effort at defending itself in selfless violence. Puri.
Yeah.
Okay, number 5. Non-violence of the coward based on unlimited weakness of character and mind. Those who do not resist aggression because of fear and for no other reason belong to this class. Number 6, selfish violence based on hatred and lust. When violence is done for selfish motives, by an individual or nation for power, selfish gains, and so forth, it is called selfish violence. Non-violence, pure and simple, means love
Karthik,
infinite.
we can repeat those lines in the say under the heading, so that that gives a sort of a gradation from divine love on to the lust, I think.
Yeah. So we can see that here in one place. So based on divine love, based on unlimited pure love, based on unlimited love, based on limited human love, based on unlimited weakness of character and mind, based on hatred and lust. So you're right. So it's a gradation that's coming top down. It starts with divine love and ends with selfish violence based on hatred and lust. And as you were thinking of this, I was also thinking that there is a good visualization opportunity here, because that will help us understand. So one, we can visualize this gradation of 6 types of violence and plot the examples that we have in situation on this, so that we'll be able to make a better understanding, right? But good, thanks you. Good you brought that up.
Yeah. Non-violence, pure and simple, means love infinite. It is the goal of life. When this state of pure divine love is reached, the aspirant is at one with God. To reach this goal, there must be intense longing, and the aspirant who has this longing to realize the supreme state has to begin by practicing what is termed non-violence of the brave. This applies to those who though not one with all through actual realization, consider no one as their enemy. They try to win over even the aggressor through love and give up their lives if attacked, not through fear, but through love. As pointed out, non-violence of the brave is practicable for those individuals who have no intense longing to attain the supreme state, who have an intense longing to attain the supreme state. This longing is not to be found in the masses. If therefore it is intended to lead the masses to pure non-violence, it is necessary first to prepare them for the non-violence of the brave. To achieve this aim in a practical way, it is necessary to make them follow, in the beginning, the principle of non-violent violence, that is, violence done solely to defend the weak without any selfish motive whatever. So non-violence of the brave is the one which is ultimately is very difficult and can only be done by the spiritually advanced. But there is in between state which Baba says, once you reach there, then that's something which is admissible and on the path. In times of actual war, when the masses are taken by surprise, they are not in the mood even to listen to advice when having intense longing to attain the supreme goal of life. The only practical way to lead them finally toward the goal is to begin by inculcating in them the principle of non-violent violence, and then gradually introducing the non-violence of the brave. A premature attempt to introduce non-violence to the brave among the unprepared masses in actual wartime would not only fail but incur a serious danger of bringing in the fatal non-violence of the coward. That is, the masses would not resist the aggression simply because of fear and for no other reason. The masses may also be educated and led to the non-violence of the brave by making them follow principles of selfless violence instead of those of non-violent violence. Selfless violence is violence done in self-defense when attacked treacherously. No other selfish motive should be allowed to justify the violence. Thus, for example, when one's mother honor is at the point of being violated by a lustful man, and one defends her by resorting to violence, one is said to have followed the principles of selfless violence. Similarly, when the honor of a nation is at stake and it is being attacked by enemies, the nation's selfless effort in defending itself in selfless violence. A tinge of selfishness being present, as the mother is one's own mother, the love expressed here is limited human love. Non-violence of the coward is, as pointed out, fatal. So also is selfish violence, that is violence for selfish motives by individuals or nations to gain power or for other selfish ends. So he has equaled them actually, non uh, of the coward and the violence for selfish motives is something equal. Yeah, at one level. It is therefore be seen that while non-violence, pure and simple, is the goal of life, this goal has to be attained by individual seekers of God by following non-violence of the brave. The masses who have not the requisite intense longing for being one with Him have to be led gradually towards this goal by the principles of non-violent violence or those of selfless violence, according to the circumstances. In conclusion, it must be very clearly understood that non-violent violence and selfless violence are merely means of attaining the goal of life, namely pure and simple non-violence or love infinite. The means must not be confused or otherwise mixed up with the goal itself. The motive and the result are always judged by general acceptance as to whether they are good or bad. For example, we lost the display. For example, non-violence of next page of the brave and non-violence of the coward are both non-violence, but from the viewpoint of the motive force behind it, non-violence of the brave is born of love and non-violence of the coward is born of fear, which is the opposite of love. While as non-violence, they are not opposites, their motives are infinitely opposed to each other. The motive behind non-violence of the brave is losing one's life to gain infinite love, but the motive behind non-violence of the coward is to save one's own life, which gains infinite contempt. Non-violence of the coward we put therefore under heading of non-love, while we put non-violence of the brave under the heading of love. Non-violence violence is not placed under the heading of love, but under the heading of duty. Non-violent violence is not placed under the heading of love, but under the heading of duty. Duty done selflessly to others according to karma yoga, which eventually is linked up with infinite love, but motivated by human love.
With unlimited love.
Yeah. The difference between two opposite forces cannot be obliterated, but the transformation of one force to another can happen when expressed rightly through the right channels. Food given wrongly becomes poison, while poison, like a strychnine, given in small quantities of a tonic, becomes food for the nerves. Although food in substance does not become poison and vice versa, action and the result due to the use can become transformed. Chapter ends here, Karthik. Blue. Now I know. So I think it is a chapter which is we encounter in everyday life, seeing what is happening around the world, wars and whatever, trade wars, even those are violence, financial tyrannies are violence, and violence is not in terms of only action, but also in terms of verbal abuse or what we talk and what we think of others. All that we have to encompass in this chapter and see where we are individually. So in this also comes many times the situation when something happens and then we avoid action. Oh, leave it. This is Baba's marji, So this is something which, as Baba lovers, is quite difficult to analyze and implement. That's what my thinking is. Many things we just leave. Oh, this was Baba's will, and then we don't take any action. Just say, for example, we don't manage our finances properly, try to increase them, Oh, jo diya hai, that is enough. So that kind of attitude, whether if you deserve something and you don't get it, you don't talk about it or at least discuss dispassionately. That's also a timidity in a sense in the corporate context. My take.
Yes, in everyday life, we come across so many situations where we either act unnecessarily or keep quiet, even though there is a need for action.
Yes. So that's yeah.
Actions may not be violent all the time.
That balance, People littering around the road on the roads. Actually, sometimes you say, "Oh no, don't do this," but can you do it all the time? Whether it is for so we have to ultimately strike a balance that okay, you have done it a couple of times, told somebody at that point of time, but that does not become your full-time job kind of a thing, So, so following any causes, as we say, or is
so everyday self-analysis of what we did and what we did not do may help us grow in the way we do things properly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, reflection of our action certainly helps determine how we can act in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
Karthik, you're silent. Are we closing or is there any other thing?
Oh, I've been talking on mute for a long time. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm saying why nobody's even listening to me. Okay, sorry.
we were talking amongst ourselves.
Yes, I figured. I've been listening to everything. I've been saying,
Yeah.
I've been trying to get a word in, and nobody's stopping me. I mean, nobody's listening to me. Anyway, so I was trying to say that this is begging for repeat analysis over the course of the week. Please try to think, try to read, or at the minimum, at least listen to it once, these two chapters, just this part, because it looks very simple, but there is a lot to take away from here. And also try to visualize this, and make notes so that it becomes permanent in your head, right? So that's what I would like to leave as a homework, but I don't know how practical homework is. It never works, but I'm putting it out there.
Okay.
Actually, there's a
Yeah,
great homework. Actually, if you can write down everything what we read, that sticks to our mind much more strongly than just reading or listening.
absolutely. So, Sanjay ji, are you showing us Mehrabad house?
Oh, I'm not there today. Last Sunday I was there. That is why I did not attend the call.
Okay.
So I missed. I was at Samadhi, then got late by. Yeah. So of course, when we meet next time, the house is all ready, and we'll have whatever chai, coffee, whatever, some
Sure.
nashta, maybe a meal. We don't know. Yeah.
Sure.
Let's see. House
Where
is
is
completely
your
ready.
house, Sanjay ji? Where is your
It
house
is
in
close to
Meherabad?
MPR. It is very close to MPR. That road which goes to MPR, just go ahead another 200